chains on my wrists tightened the moment the doors opened, and I knew this was not going to be another quiet day in the cell. 2 guards pulled me forward by the arms, their claws digging through the thin fabric of my sleeves. I had been a prisoner on this ship for 11 months, and in all that time, no one had ever come for me like this. Fast, urgent, afraid. I stumbled through a corridor lit with a soft blue glow, the walls breathing slightly, alive in a way that still made my skin crawl even after months of seeing it every day. The guards did not speak. They never did. But today their grip was different. Today their eyes kept flicking toward me, then away, like they were looking at something they did not want to see. My name is Daniel Whitmore. I used to be a soldier. Now I was a specimen, kept alive because the aliens who captured me found humans interesting, rather than because they respected us. At least that had been my understanding until this very moment, when the corridor ended at a massive door that had never opened for me before. The doors slid apart with a low hiss, and the air that rushed out smelled like ozone and something sweet, almost like burnt sugar. Beyond the doors was a chamber larger than anything I had seen on this ship. The ceiling curved upward into darkness, dotted with pulsing lights that looked like stars trapped in glass. Rows of alien attendants lined the walls, their heads bowed, their bodies trembling slightly, like they were standing in the presence of something enormous. At the far end of the chamber sat the Queen. I had heard whispers about her from the guards, fragments of a language I was only beginning to understand. She was the center of everything on this ship, the one whose word could end a life, or spare one without explanation. I had never seen her before. Nothing had prepared me for her size, or the way the air itself seemed to bend slightly around her, or the way every creature in that room refused to lift their eyes toward her face. The guards forced me to my knees a few meters from her, and my shirt tore at the shoulder from the rough handling, exposing a long scar that ran from my collarbone down across my chest. It was an old wound, years old, something I had carried since the last true battle I fought before this ship pulled me out of the wreckage of my old life. The moment the scar came into view, everything changed. The Queen went still, not the stillness of calm, but the stillness of something frozen in place by shock. Her many eyes, dark and reflective like polished stone, fixed on my chest and did not move. The attendants around the room began to stir, murmuring in fast clicking tones, their bodies pulling back as though the air near me had turned to fire. Then the Queen spoke, her voice low, trembling, carried through some kind of translator device that hovered near her throat. "He has returned." I did not understand. I looked down at my own scar, confused, my heart pounding against my ribs. The guards who had dragged me in now stood frozen, unwilling to touch me again. One of them actually took a step back, his claws scraping against the floor. I want to tell you that I felt brave in that moment, but the truth is I felt like a man standing on ice that had just begun to crack beneath his feet. I did not know what I had done or who they thought I was, but I understood one simple fact. Something about that scar had just changed my entire situation, and I had no idea if it meant I would live or die in the next few minutes. The Queen rose from her seat, and the chamber shook slightly under the weight of her movement. She approached slowly, her long limbs folding and unfolding with a grace that did not match her size. The attendants pressed themselves flat against the walls as she passed, refusing to meet her eyes even from a distance. She stopped in front of me, towering, and reached out one long limb, hovering just above the scar without touching it, as if she was afraid contact alone might trigger something catastrophic. "Where did this mark come from?" she asked, her translated voice steady now, though I could hear the effort behind it. I told her the truth because I could not think of a reason to lie. I told her about the battle years ago, before this war between our species had ever begun, back when I was fighting an entirely different kind of enemy, in an entirely different kind of place. I told her about the night my unit was ambushed near a research outpost on the edge of contested territory, and about the creature that gave me this scar before my team managed to drive it back into the dark. I had never fully understood what that creature was. My commanding officers at the time told us it was an experiment gone wrong, something our own side had created and lost control of. We were told to forget about it, to never speak of it again, and most of us did exactly that, because talking about it felt like it might summon it back. The Queen listened to every word without interrupting, her body rigid, her breathing slow and controlled in a way that told me she was working hard to stay calm. When I finished, she turned to her attendants and spoke rapidly in her own language. The room erupted into motion, bodies scattering in different directions, some rushing toward the exits, others gathering into tight clusters, whispering urgently among themselves. "I need you to understand something, human," she said, turning back to me. "That mark on your chest is not an ordinary wound. It is the signature of something my people have feared for 300 cycles. We call it the devourer of light. It nearly destroyed our homeworld once, long before your kind ever left your own planet. We believed it was gone, ended, sealed away in a place beyond even our reach. I felt a chill crawl up my spine, colder than anything I had experienced in 11 months of captivity. If your creature and our devourer are the same being, she continued, then its return is not a possibility. It is a certainty, and the mark on your body is proof that it once touched you and let you live. Nothing survives an encounter with it unless it wants them to. I did not know what to say. I had spent years trying to forget that night, trying to convince myself it was just another monster in a long list of monsters that soldiers meet and survive. Hearing an alien queen speak about it with genuine terror in her voice made the memory feel real again in a way it had not felt in a very long time. Why does that matter now? I asked, my voice steadier than I expected. Your people captured my species. We are enemies. Why does any of this concern you enough to bring me here like this? The queen lowered herself slightly, bringing her face closer to mine, close enough that I could see the fine patterns etched into her exoskeleton, patterns that shimmered faintly under the chamber's light. Because 3 days ago our outer colonies stopped responding, she said. Entire settlements, silent within hours. No distress signals, no wreckage, just silence. We assumed it was your species retaliating for the war, but the reports that did reach us before the silence spoke of darkness swallowing the sky, and screams that stopped all at once, as if something erased them rather than killed them. The chamber around us had gone quiet, the attendants no longer whispering, all of them listening now, their fear thick enough that I could almost taste it in the recycled air. We believed the devourer was sealed forever, she continued. But if it has returned, then every species in this part of the galaxy is in danger, including yours. Your war with us will mean nothing if it consumes everything in its path. I sat there processing what she was telling me, trying to separate truth from the panic clearly gripping everyone in that room. I had been a prisoner for so long that trusting an alien queen felt impossible, yet something about her fear felt too raw, too immediate, to be a performance designed to manipulate me. What do you want from me? I finally asked. You survived an encounter with it, she said. No living being in our recorded history has done that, and lived long enough to speak of it. That makes you the only creature who might know something useful about how to stop it, or at the very least, how to survive its return. I laughed, though there was no humor in it. I was a soldier who got lucky one night. I do not have secret knowledge. I barely remember most of what happened. It was dark and fast, and I ran. The queen studied me for a long moment, her dark eyes unreadable. Perhaps luck is a kind of knowledge, she said. Or perhaps something inside you recognized a way to survive that none of us understand yet. Either way, you are the only piece we have. I am prepared to offer you something no human has ever been offered by my people. She gestured, and one of the attendants approached, carrying a small device that looked like a folded piece of metal, humming faintly with energy. Your freedom, the queen said. Full release from this ship, and safe passage back to your people, along with everything we know about the devourer, if you agree to help us understand what allowed you to survive that night, not as a prisoner, as an equal. I stared at the device, then at her, weighing the offer against every instinct that told me not to trust anything on this ship. But freedom was freedom, and if what she said about this creature was true, then staying silent and safe in a cell would not protect me or anyone else for very long. I want proof first, I said. Show me what happened to those colonies. Let me see it with my own eyes before I agree to anything. The queen nodded slowly, as if she had expected this request. She turned to the attendants and gave another rapid command, and within moments, a wide screen unfolded from the ceiling, displaying a recording taken from one of the outer colonies before the silence began. The footage showed a peaceful settlement, domes glowing with warm light, figures moving calmly between buildings. Then the sky above the dome began to darken unnaturally fast, the light draining from the clouds as if something was pulling it away thread by thread. The figures below looked up and their movements turned frantic, though no sound reached the recording device. Within seconds, the darkness swallowed everything, and the feed cut to static. My hands were shaking by the time the screen folded back into the ceiling. I had seen a lot of terrible things in my years as a soldier, but there was something about that silent darkness that reached into a part of me I thought I had sealed away years ago. That is exactly what happened the night I got this scar, I said quietly. The sky went dark like that, no sound, just darkness pulling everything in. The chamber fell into an even heavier silence. The queen straightened, and for the first time since I had entered the room, I saw something shift in her posture. Not fear exactly, but resolve. Then we do not have much time, she said. If it moves at the pace it did before, it will reach the inner colonies within days, and after that, nothing will stop it from reaching your world as well. I thought about my old unit, scattered across the years, most of them gone now, moved on to other lives or lost to other battles. I thought about the outpost where I first saw that darkness swallow the sky, and how none of us ever spoke about it again, out of fear that speaking about it would bring it back. Maybe silence was never protection. Maybe it was just delay. "I will help you," I said, surprising myself with how steady my voice sounded. "But I want my people warned too. If this thing is coming, Earth needs to know, regardless of what is happening between our species right now." The Queen agreed without hesitation, which told me more about the seriousness of the threat than any speech could have. She gave orders for a signal to be prepared, one that would reach human space through channels normally reserved for war communications, carrying a warning instead of a declaration. Over the next several hours, I was moved from the cell that had been my home for nearly a year into quarters built for someone of importance, a strange and uncomfortable shift after months of being treated as nothing more than a curiosity. Attendants brought data files translated into a language I could understand, records of the devourer stretching back centuries, sightings, theories, failed attempts to stop it that ended the same way every time, in silence and darkness. I studied everything I could, searching for any detail that matched what I remembered from that night at the outpost. Slowly, pieces began to align. The way the darkness moved was not random. It followed patterns, curling towards sources of energy first, generators, power cores, anything that produced light or heat, before spreading outward to consume everything else. My unit had survived that night because we retreated into an underground shelter powered by a failing, flickering generator, one that barely gave off any energy at all. The creature had passed over us, drawn instead toward the brighter, stronger power sources on the surface. I brought this observation to the Queen as soon as I pieced it together, and for the first time since I had arrived on that ship, I saw something close to hope in her expression. "If it is drawn to energy output rather than life itself," she said, studying the data alongside me, "then we may be able to redirect it, draw it away from populated areas using controlled energy sources as bait, buying time to evacuate our people and yours." It was not a solution. It was a delay. The same kind of delay that had let my unit survive years ago. But sometimes a delay is enough to save lives, and sometimes enough delays strung together can become something close to a real answer. We spent the following days working together, human knowledge and alien technology combining in ways neither species had ever attempted before. I helped design decoy stations built to mimic the massive power signatures of populated colonies, drawing on memories of that flickering generator and how it had gone unnoticed in the dark. The Queen's engineers built the devices faster than I thought possible, driven by fear and urgency neither of us needed to explain out loud. On the fourth day, word came that the darkness had reached one of the inner colonies. But this time, decoy stations placed along its path drew it away just long enough for evacuation ships to escape with every living being aboard. Not a single life was lost. It was the first time in 300 cycles that a settlement in the Devourer's path had survived its passing. The Queen came to see me that night, standing quietly in the doorway of the quarters I had been given, her presence far less intimidating now than it had been in that vast chamber days earlier. "You have done something my people could not do alone in 3 centuries, she said. "You gave us a way to survive it, even if only for now." I looked down at the scar on my chest, the same mark that had once felt like nothing more than a painful memory from a night I wanted to forget. Now it felt like the reason an entire alien civilization had a chance to keep living. "I did not do this alone," I said. "Your people built everything. I just remembered one small detail from a night I spent years trying to forget." "Sometimes," she said, "small details are the only thing that stands between survival and silence." The war between our species had not ended that night, and I knew there would be difficult conversations ahead, both with my own people and with hers, about trust, about the future, about what it meant for a human and an alien queen to work side by side against something greater than either of our conflicts. But for the first time since I had woken up as a prisoner on this ship, I did not feel like someone waiting for the next terrible thing to happen to him. I felt like someone who had found a reason to keep fighting for something bigger than survival alone. The scar on my chest would always be there, a permanent reminder of the night the sky went dark and silent, but now it meant something different. It was not just proof that I had survived something terrible. It was proof that survival, shared between 2 species who once saw each other only as enemies, could become the first step toward something neither of us had dared to hope for. A future where the darkness did not get the final word.